Hi everybody, welcome back to Cottoverdi. My name's Annette and today I've got a couple of exciting jobs. Firstly, I want to apologise if you can hear rumbling in the background. My next door neighbour has got some scaffolding going up, so that's the drilling sound that we can hear, but hopefully it's not too loud. So the jobs today, the first thing is that I have had a delivery of my ladybird larvae. Now if you don't know, ladybird larvae eat aphids like crazy, like in their millions. So I'm going to show you what I do with those. And then the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to tidy up some of the tulip pots that have gone over, and I'm going to start planting up my pots with summer annuals and other things that I've grown from seed and that I've ordered in, and just getting ready for the summer season. So let's get started. Let me show you these ladybird larvae. So this is how the ladybird larvae come. I've ordered quite a few because that's what I need. They tend to come with in little sort of shreds of paper, and it's quite hard to see them. So that's like a ladybird larvae there. I mean, they're absolutely tiny at this stage, but they do grow. And there are some more there. So I've ordered from a company that sends little bags. So we put them into the bag. So you literally open up the box. They're ever so cute. And then we literally just tip the box into here. So they're all in here now, and then we pull the drawstring bag like this, leaving a little hole at the top. And then we can just go and place this where we want them to be. So I'm here by the massive rose arch, and I've got Claire Austin and the Generous Gardener planted on either side, and I saw some little aphids this morning, and so I'm going to hang my little sack with the ladybird larvae over here, and then they will gobble up all the aphids. So the bag doesn't weigh anything, and so wherever you can see the most aphids and greenfly, that's a good spot to hang your bag. But you can just, you know, if you've got a hedge or whatever, you can just place it in the hedge. If you've been watching my channel a while, you'll know that I had some black hero tulips planted in amongst these tulips here, and they were really upsetting me because they were so dark. And what I've done is I've pulled them out to the best of my ability. There are definitely some bulbs still in there. They didn't come out whole. But I just think it looks so much better and so much prettier without that really dark tulip. So ladybird larvae have got a huge appetite for soft-bodied pests like greenfly and aphids and things like that, and releasing them into the environment is just a really natural way to combat those pests. You can also release them into a greenhouse if you've got an aphid problem in your greenhouse, and not only will the larvae gobble up the aphids and greenfly, but they're going to obviously grow into ladybirds, which will also eat the greenfly and aphids. So it's just a really natural way to boost the numbers of things that are going to eat these pests. And I've got a lot of roses, like loads of roses in my garden, and so at this time of year I just think it's really helpful to release the ladybird larvae to combat this problem that we all have with aphids and greenfly ruining our rose display. So apparently we only need one of these every 10 meters. I'm trying to hang the bag so that it's in the shade for most of the day. I could just place the bag on here, but I think I'd rather hang it. It is such a glorious day. It's almost too sunny, but I really wanted to show everybody. This is the Harrod horticultural arch that we put in on a previous video, but I've got 3 viburnum opulus bushes, and what I've tried to do is create a rhythm, and this is actually the view that we get from our kitchen further back, but these shine out at this time of year. It's absolutely spectacular. They're not quite in full flush yet. I think in about a week's time they will be. But the best thing about Viburnum opulus, which I think is better than Philadelphus, is that, I mean, Philadelphus smells wonderful. But with Viburnum opulus, you've got a really, really pretty leaf shape as well. So we don't just have these lovely balls of white fluff at this time of year, but the leaves are just really pretty. So the rest of the year, I think these bushes or shrubs or trees, I think they look really nice. Rather than, I really struggle with Philadelphus, even though it smells incredible, because I find that those shrubs just look really messy. So I just think that this is such a pretty leaf shape. It's a little bit sort of maple-like. But as these balls of fluff mature, they just get bigger and bigger and bigger. If you've been following me a while, you'll know that last year I found the most incredibly beautiful Aquilegia. Well, I think it is. And I think it's just a mutation because it's got this lovely purple stripe. And I was worried that it wasn't going to come back this year, but it's come back and it's just so pretty. I really, really love it. So on to the next project today. I'm going to start planting up some of my summer containers. Now I do have big pots that I put on the patio, but this year I'm filling those big pots. This is a change for me. I am putting some of my shorter variety dahlias in those pots. So now what I'm going to do today is pot up the smaller pots that I have. So, you know, something more sort of this size. I'm going to pot those up today. Now I always have these pots on the patio, but what I tend to do is fill all my pots, including the big ones that I take the tulips out of. I fill those with lots of sort of, you know, summer annuals and trading plants, but I'm changing it up this year and I'm really excited about, you know, how it's going to come together and what it's going to look like. Now the first thing I'm going to do is pot up one of my must-haves every single year, and this is a plant called Nemesia Wisley Vanilla. And the reason I love this plant so much is because of the scent. So in the evenings you just get wafts of vanilla scent. If you like the smell of baking cookies or vanilla, then this is the plant for you on a summer's evening. This is incredible, and I just like having rows of this particular plant in pots to sort of envelope us in this gorgeous scent. It's a really pretty Nemesia as well. It's got lovely little white flowers. It's very delicate. I find it's quite upright. I've got these sort of little pot crowns, and I really like using these with my Wisley Vanilla. So I've got 2 of those. So I'm going to pot those up today. Now these plants came as plug plants a few weeks ago, and I've had them sitting just potted. I potted them up. So it could be that some of the earth falls off these as I plant them up, but that's just because they came as very little plug plants and they've been hardened off. They've been growing outside. They're doing great. The slugs and snails are not interested in these, whereas they're eating all my trailing verbena. With all my pots in the summer, I put slow release fertilizer in with the compost. It's fresh compost anyway, so it will have some nutrients in it, but the slow release fertilizer, I find that really helps. In addition to feeding my pots occasionally, I always add some of this plant food. It really helps with the flowering and just sustaining the plants through the season. So with my pots, they've got a drainage hole at the bottom, and what I do is I put one crock like this, and then I balance the other crock on top like that, so that water can still get underneath through the gap. This Nemesia is going to flower between May and October, and it'll get to about 30 centimetres tall. It says it's going to get to 30 centimetres wide, but I have never found that. I'm going to put 3 of these into this pot here. So it is growing some roots. There are a few little roots showing. So as with all my pots, I'm just going to cover the pot with some horticultural grit. It's just a really small grit, and not only do I think it looks quite nice while the plants are quite small and you can see a lot of earth, it stops the soil splashing up against the plants when it rains, it suppresses weeds, and it also helps to retain moisture in the pot. So I think it's a really good thing to do with our pots. And then all I'm going to do is position this on here like that and do another pot to match. This is the next thing that I'm planting up. And this is called Gilia or Gilia, I don't know how you pronounce it. They're called bird's eyes, and they are the absolute cutest little flowers. I've grown these before, and the reason I love them is because they're so tiny and delicate, and they come in shades of blue and purple and mauve and lavender and a bit of pink, and they've got these white centres, and then if you look really closely, they've got sort of electric blue anthers, and I just find them intriguing and fascinating, and they've got this lovely fluffy foliage. And the pots that I've chosen for these are these ones here. So these we've drilled drainage holes in the bottom, and then because the only plastic pot I can find to fit in here is a little bit short, I've put some crocks in the bottom just to raise it up. In the past I've planted straight into these pots, but I actually think it's quite handy to have a pot inside so that I can change it out should the need arise, and then that's raised up my plastic pot just sufficiently for it not to be a problem. So I'm going to plant the Gilia into these and then put them into that metal container. So these don't need crocks in the bottom, they've got proper drainage, and there's no reason to have a crock. They've got really nice roots. These are going to flower between July and September, and they should get to about 60 centimetres tall. I sowed these on the 29th of February and they germinated within 2 days. They germinated by the 2nd of March. They're going to like full sun or part shade and a well-drained soil. The next thing I'm planting are these. I grew these from seed. They're absolutely gorgeous. These are called Schizanthus, or poor man's orchid, and that is because the flowers kind of look like little orchids. They're so cute, and they come in sort of this range of colours: pinks, whites, purples, mauves. I think they're absolutely gorgeous. So these are supposed to grow to 30 centimetres wide, but also they like a restricted root run. So I think these are really useful to have in containers wherever, to have in containers. I think they're really handy, especially if you've got shallow containers. I'm going to be using these containers, which aren't the tallest, and I find I quite often struggle with really shallow containers, what to plant in there. But if these like a restricted root run, then this is going to be perfect. They also, though, like really rich compost, so I'm going to put loads of the slow release fertilizer in, and I am using brand new compost so that they have a lot of goodness, and hopefully I'll have a really good display throughout the summer. They're going to prefer a cool sunny position, so what I'm going to do to facilitate that is I'm still going to have them on the patio in full sun, but I will try to make sure that the roots, the top of the pot is shaded by something taller, so the flowers will get lots of sun, but hopefully I'll be able to protect the roots. I'm also going to put grit on top, and that should really help too. I sowed these on the 8th of February and they germinated by the 11th of February, so that's 3 days. These are annuals, they're going to be cut down by frost. They're going to flower between June and September, so obviously they're flowering now and it's May. I'm not sure why. It could be because I've still got them in tiny little pots, and so that's meant that they wanted to start flowering. These are going to grow apparently to 30 centimetres tall, which I'd say they are, maybe slightly taller than that, some of them, and they should grow to 30 centimetres wide. I am not convinced these are going to grow to 30 centimetres wide, so I'm going to cram quite a few into a pot. The last thing I'm planting today is Saponaria ocymoides, which is this little flower here. So Saponaria ocymoides creates these cascades of pretty little pink flowers between July and October. Obviously mine's flowering already and it's only May, I think between June and October actually, but that's because these have come from a plant nursery. Now these plugs are big enough to plant straight out and they've been outside, so they've been hardening off, so I'm planting them straight into pots today. But ordinarily when I receive plug plants I would pot them up into a 9 centimetre pot and then plant them out. So Saponaria is also called rock soapwort because apparently you can make soap from it. I'm not sure how, or tumbling Ted, and that is because of the way that it just grows and fills in gaps, but it also looks really good in containers. And once it's established, it's really drought tolerant. So I think it'll do quite well in containers, especially if I forget to water it. And it likes full sun and free draining soil, you know, the usual things. But I've got some tall pots here and I think the pink's going to look really pretty with the yellow. And I've also got a little rusty old blue one here, and I think these will look really cute, and because they're tall I think it's going to look really nice sort of cascading over the sides in the summer on my patio. Again, I've just added some slow release fertilizer to the fresh compost. And then in this container I'm using 2 pots because it's an oval container and I don't have an oval pot. So I'm just going to, I think, probably plant 1 plant into each little pot because these are going to grow nice and wide. What I am going to do is just sort of break up the root ball a little bit. And then the great thing about these, obviously, because these are fully hardy plants, is that I'm going to be able to, once they've finished flowering for the season, I'm going to be able to plant them out into my garden for the coming seasons. And then because there's a lot of compost showing, again, I'm going to put some grit on top of those. And then everything needs a really good water. Well, that's it for today. I really hope you've enjoyed joining me as I introduced all those ladybird larvae into my garden to gobble up the green fly and aphids, and watching me pot up the summer containers, particularly as I potted up some of the seedlings that I grew this year. And if you've been following along, I think it's really exciting to see those seeds germinate, turn into little seedlings, and then we're finally able to plant them out in the garden. I can't wait to see what they look like in my summer containers this year. It is such glorious weather here in the UK at the moment. I hope the weather's wonderful where you are. Enjoy gardening, everybody. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all next time.